Welcome to Trade Matters. This week, setting the record straight on the U.S. trade deficit. First, it's big. Second, it's not that big. What do I mean? The 2017 annual U.S. trade deficit with the world topped $796 billion. That's big. It's the largest U.S. trade deficit since 2008, when the U.S. ended 3 consecutive years with annual deficits above $800 billion. So while it's big, it's not that big. It's just the 4th largest in the last 14 years. A rising deficit doesn't tell the whole story. A nation determines its deficit or its surplus by subtracting the value of its merchandise imports from its exports. But what if you subtract exports from total trade? You get what I like to call the balance of trade. Here's why that's important to consider. Since 2009, when the U.S. deficit fell to less than $504 billion as the world reeled from the global economic crisis, the deficit has grown by more than 50%. That's big. But the balance of trade has not moved and remains at 40 cents on the dollar. For every dollar of U.S. trade with the world, 40 cents is a U.S. export. How is that possible? Well, overall U.S. trade is increasing, both exports and imports. So while the difference between the two is growing, the ratio is not. We can't talk about the U.S. trade deficit without mentioning one particular nation, China. The 2017 deficit with China was $375 billion. While the overall U.S. deficit was not a record, that is a record. In fact, the U.S. trade deficit with China has set a record 17 of the last 20 years. But in 2017, the United States traded with 234 nations, or what the U.S. Census calls nations. Of that total, the U.S. registered deficits with 104 and surpluses with 130. By the way, that includes a $2,660 surplus with North Korea. I hope that sheds a little light on the U.S. trade deficit. Looking for more information? WorldCity adds thousands of pages of trade data monthly at ustradenumbers.com. Take a look. And remember, trade matters.